Hey there, welcome. We're going to talk about narcissism versus self-love. What's the difference and how do they compare? All of that. So, my name's Lisa Colucci. I'm going to be here to talk to you. Sorry, let me start that over. My name's Lisa Colucci, and I'm here to help you understand things related to narcissism, to healing from toxic relationships, and transforming your life after toxic relationships. So, let's just jump in with talking about what is the difference between narcissism and self love. A lot of people who are healing from toxic relationships will be worried that they're going to become selfish or think that self love feels like something that is leaning towards narcissism or making them become narcissistic in order to, not be hurt by other people. So, what self love is not narcissism. What self love is valuing and honoring yourself and respecting yourself and having boundaries with people in the world that you know from clarity inside yourself and are able to place those boundaries without um, the guilt and shame and all of that because you know it's right for your life and you know that it's something that you um, are doing to maintain health and well-being and emotional well-being and emotional health and all of that for your own life. If you contrast that with narcissism basically is an inflated sense of self, inflated sense of false self that is created by a delusional sense of grandeur of what a person is, that they so basically they're looking at something they believe is themselves and they're putting that as like this glorified version of who they are, and they are not actually being introspective and looking at the true self. They're living in a delusional state of aggrandizing the things that they want to believe they are. And so the thing is, who cares? Let them do it, right? Like, who cares if someone does that? Why do we care? Well, we care because the only way to have that is to put other people down. You can't Narcissists don't stop there. They don't stop at being egotistical. Their need for supply and their need for attention and their need for focus to be on them and on this aggrandized version of who they believe and say that they are creates the manipulation that they use toward other people so that they're tearing other people down in order to build themselves up. They're using other people as the supply and the catalyst to like building their egotistical point of view of self. The difference with self love is it doesn't affect or harm anyone else. It is simply respecting oneself. And yes, you may need to set a boundary which affects someone else. But if you are operating from self love, that boundary is placed very obviously for personal reasons for self, right? It's not there to manipulate and force the other person into a position. They may not like it, but it's not there to harm them. It's not an intentional or not intentional, however you want to see narcissism, right? It's not it's not there to hurt someone else. It's not manipulating other people. It is simply the act of caring for oneself. All right. Hey, Darlene and Chris, good to see you guys. So, I mean, the thing is with self love, it's a very challenging concept for a lot of people who have been raised in toxic upbringing, who have or people who have been in long-term toxic relationships, or people who have been just completely torn down from short-term toxic relationships. Finding that place of self-love, and especially for people who were raised by toxic parents. And um, you aren't taught that that's even a thing. You don't even really know what it means. So we start applying all these things like I'll just do these affirmations, I'll just boost myself up. And there's this, I want to say, artificial sort of push toward forcing this self-love on ourselves in order to do the thing right, right? To do this healing thing right. But the thing about self-love is it's not necessarily an act of or words of how amazing you are and boosting yourself up. Those are all things that can be included, of course. But it's really an act of self-respect and an action of self-awareness that you learn to stop the judging and you learn to let go of the perfectionism and you learn to let go of the things that are causing the twisted thinking in our own heads about self. And through that, you are gaining a love of self, which means allowing the love that exists to also be for yourself. So if you're a person that knows how to love, you know what it feels like to love, you know that you love things or people or animals or whatever, you know what the experience of love is. It's including yourself in that feeling and allowing that to come towards self from yourself. Does that make sense? So that's completely different than an egotistical viewpoint of a narcissist who intellectually and from a stubborn sense of righteous ego, you know what I mean? Um, is pretending to be this amazing thing when on the inside there is a lot of self-criticism, a lot of judging, a lot of self-hatred that isn't dealt with, and instead is, because they say most narcissists have pretty insecure about who they actually are, and that's why they are partially why they're lashing out at others, because instead of having self-awareness with it, and this is another reason why I don't believe in self-aware narcissists as anything more than someone that claims they are narcissistic, right? Um, but the self-awareness of the inner life, of the reality of the suffering that they have about themselves, and instead of taking that and growing with it, they're taking that, pretending it doesn't exist and saying, "No, I'm not, I'm better. No, I'm not that, I'm this." And forcing this false persona for everyone else to see, and then creating that delusional world that they require everyone to revolve around, or else it crumbles their little glass house, right? It crumbles it. There is no foundation of self-love. It is egotism. Okay? It's just egotistical. So self-love, on the other hand, includes everything. It's a foundation that if you have it and you build it, okay, you may not have it right now. You may not even know what I'm talking about when I say self-love. And that's okay because you can gain it through experiencing yourself in life and through knocking off all the judgment that you have towards yourself, right? And through kindness, through a gentle inner dialogue with oneself. There's all kinds of tools for building your experience of self love. I'm not going to say building self love because I think self love is a natural state that can be had if we're taught how to accept ourselves and how to fully allow ourselves to be self, right? To be true self, right? Instead of what we were taught, which is we're supposed to be X, Y, and Z for everybody else from toxic upbringing, and or that we're not good or that we're wrong because of this or that, whatever we're taught because of the traumas of our past. So, does that make sense? What are you guys saying here? Chris is saying self-love is staying in your own lane, working on your personal power. Oh yeah. Narcissism is the exact opposite, trying to control everyone and everything. And exactly. And even when you're with a narcissist, here's the thing, it is incredibly hard to maintain a sense of self-love because of the power play. Because when you're with them, what are you trying to do? You're trying to control everything as well. Why? Because you're trying to mitigate any harm coming your way. You're trying to reduce the risk of that narcissist getting explosive. And so you're trying to control things. They're trying to control things. And never is there just inner peace and a sense of care and love for oneself. And you may love them, but it's that back and forth sick thing that happens, which is more of a push pull than it is actual expression of love. Okay. Darlene says, I just finished working out shortly before this stream. That was also self love. Okay. So, what are some acts of self love? Sure. Exercising, working out. Why? Well, partly because it feels good to the body. You're taking care of your body. You're taking care of your serotonin. You're taking care of your headspace, right? By exercising. So other things could be getting some time for yourself, just being with yourself, learning to be okay with yourself, and then I'll actually to the point of enjoying yourself, being alone, so that you like know who you are, right? And you can witness the person that is who you are. All right. And it doesn't make you a narcissist. It's just how you think you need to survive when you're in a relationship. Oh yeah. Exactly. It doesn't make you a narcissist to be um doing the control thing back. It's part of the dynamic of being in a relationship with a toxic person. The only other option is to go complacent or a doormat, right? Roll over and just let it all happen. Like, whatever, I can't stop it. So I'm just going to sit here and suffer, right? There's not a lot of options that are good when you're within those toxic relationships that lend toward self-love at all. And that doesn't make you narcissistic. No, it doesn't. It makes you everybody has an element of control, wanting control, right? It takes effort to relax and let be what is and allow others to be who they are and to accept and allow yourself to be who you are. People are, I mean, so many people. Okay, let's talk about that. The narcissistic traits that get stuck in you toward yourself because of being raised by a narcissist or being with a narcissist in your life long term, and how that differs from self-love. So we'll do things like, well, I am very rigid with myself and um I'm a perfectionist and I'm a, people say things like this. They'll say that, well, perfectionism, that's a big one. And so where did they learn that? They learn that from narcissistic parent in many of their cases. Not always, you can learn it anywhere, but from a narcissistic parent teaching them that if they weren't perfect, they weren't loved, or if they weren't perfect, something bad would happen to them or someone else, or if they weren't, if they didn't do it just right, and just right was never enough. You get an A, why wasn't it an A plus? That kind of thing in their life. And so they've learned that that is a way to be and function in life. But see, that isn't operating from self-love, that's operating from self-judgment. And so once you understand where it came from, then you can start looking at it like, well, this is not actually me. This is actually something that someone toxic planted in my mind about how I'm supposed to behave with myself. How can I turn this piece into self love? Perhaps you enjoy bits of perfectionism because it gets the job done, or it's like makes things nice, makes things pretty, makes things good, right? Maybe you like the feeling of pushing yourself toward that perfectionist goal and you're saying, well, so what if I'm a perfectionist? I want to be. Or you're saying, yeah, it hurts me, but it gets things done. I don't know how to be any other way. All right, or whatever it is. It's it's that you can take that once you're aware of where it came from. If you're aware that it came from narcissism in your life, that this idea of how you're supposed to be came from somewhere like that, then you can say, okay, what parts of this are mine? What do I enjoy about this? And how can I work toward that without the self judgment, without beating myself up when I don't make the mark, without thinking that I need to do better all the time and never feeling satisfied? And then you can learn to talk to yourself in a way that is supportive, is kind, is nurturing, and you're there for yourself instead of the perfectionist voice of your toxic parent. So, is that making sense? All right. Um, they wear it like a badge of honor because they were programmed to. So they think self-love is selfish. Oh, yeah. A lot of people do. They can't they think thinking of themselves is selfish. A lot of people do. A lot of survivors of toxic parents in particular have been told, you're so selfish. You're so, look at you trying to take all the attention. What, this isn't all about you, whatever they're told by toxic people, right? And toxic parents. And so they really do think that even for 1 second thinking about themselves is a selfish act. That that's tricky because it's really, really ingrained in your mind when you have that going on, that that is selfish. Like, you would never tell someone else who took a 10-minute break that they're selfish for taking a break, but you would tell yourself that. And so there's an indication that something's up. When it's something you wouldn't judge someone else for, but you're judging yourself really, really harshly for it, there's probably something in there that needs a little tweaking or a little playing with so that you can relax that part and start, transforming things for yourself in your life towards healing and not having that trait and turning that trait into self-love instead. So if you're doing the I think it's selfish thing, you can ask yourself, where did that thought come from? When did this thought originate? How did it get put in my head? Was I taught this thought, or do I actually organically believe that for me to take 10 minutes is selfish, but everyone else in the world is allowed? Maybe you do, but most likely it was planted there. And once you know where it came from, there are ways to work through it. And we will talk more about that on other videos so I can keep moving on here. But yeah, and that is something that's super great for the group coaching or for coaching if you need it. And I'll just point it out now. If you are interested in something like that, check it out in the description of every video. There is a link for the group coaching. There's a link to coaching, and there's a link to peer support. So hey guys, Darlene and Shoshana and James and Games. Hello, hello. So we're talking about self-love versus narcissism. And thanks for coming in. Okay, so what else we got about this? This is it's interesting because it can wait, what do you say? It keeps people in victim mentality. Oh, it does. Absolutely. If you think it's selfish, why would you do it, right? And if you don't even make attempts towards self-love, if you're not able to, or you can't, or you don't know how, it keeps you in a victim mindset, unfortunately, because it keeps you beneath other people in your own mind. And it keeps you, so when people say, how do I stop attracting narcissists? Self-love is kind of way up there. Okay. It really, really is. That doesn't mean you have to be as egotistical as a narcissist. What it means is you have to respect yourself, and you have to know your boundaries, and you have to know the line you won't let another person cross. All of those are acts of self-love. Self-love is often an act. Okay. It's the acts we show ourselves that show us. That doesn't matter towards anyone else. It only matters towards you, what you show yourself. Because it, well, not because, it's also self-validation. And that's something that we have to learn to do, because if you're continually looking for validation from the outside and from other people, the likelihood of a toxic person slipping into your life is pretty high, because that's what they love to do. They love to offer you the validation in the form of love bombing and then take it away so that they can control you while they play with you, cat and mouse, love bomb and devalue, right? So it's important to gain these skills and acts of self-love and learn to allow it to come towards yourself. That's another piece. A lot of people don't feel they deserve it. That's something for yourself that, is worth talking through with someone, because you do deserve it. Absolutely. It's kind of a birthright. What are we saying here? Darlene is saying, thinking about the manifestation of self-love, many people who, like me, live alone think they aren't worth cooking a full meal for. So they grab a sandwich or something, but what makes you less? Right. Right. Less worth cooking for than anyone else. A full meal makes too much, freeze the rest and give it away, but you are just as worth it as anyone else. All the time. Absolutely. Cooking a full meal for yourself, cleaning your place for yourself, doing acts that you would do for someone else, for you, vacuuming out your car for yourself. You know what I mean? These little acts of things that show you that you matter, that are respectful towards yourself and your environment, and that keep you in a place of self in a good way, right? Okay. Oh, good one, James. I've been struggling with self-love lately due to intrusive thoughts that arise when I try to engage in my hobbies. Can you say more about that? And we'll talk about this because this inaction can be helpful. And I realize I've gotten off the topic of narcissism, but I get bored of it. So you guys are more important. Um, yes, self-love isn't often fun in the moment. That's right. It's for your future self, a love of the time. Right. It's you often don't even feel it when you're doing it. You often, especially in the beginning, you're like, well, what was that? So what? But it builds on itself. Like I said, it's a foundation. You don't build a foundation with one pebble. You build a foundation with stone after stone after stone until something is solid underneath you. It takes time. It's heavy work sometimes, and it's a little bit painful sometimes, but not in a bad way. It's effort. Okay. And it's breaking the patterns. So we're going to talk about what James is saying here. It's breaking the patterns of things like intrusive thoughts, breaking the patterns of negative self talk, of reactivity, of anything that is interfering with what could be replaced as self love. So you're struggling with intrusive thoughts that arise when I try to engage in your hobbies. What kind of thoughts? I'll just make some up and you tell me if I'm right, just because we can't talk back and forth real fast. So, engaging in hobbies and some negative self talk comes in. This is stupid. You're wasting your time. Why are you doing this? You're always just playing around and you don't do anything. You're never serious, whatever it is. Okay. Let's just imagine it's something like that. And these intrusive thoughts come in, and then it totally kills the fun of the hobby. Or you put the hobby away and you're like, yeah, I shouldn't do that. It interferes somehow with what you're doing. So take a second and get present to yourself. Just try it. Pull out a hobby. Go grab a coloring book, whatever. Try it. Let the thought come up. Welcome it. Welcome these intrusive thoughts because you're going to play with them. You're going to use it as a playground to, excuse me, to create the new way of thinking, the new neural pathways, this takes time and it takes practice and repetition. So if it happens a lot, bring it and go ahead and change it. All right. So coming into yourself, your body somehow, some sort of awareness of being present inside yourself. Get out of your head, is what I'm saying. Get out of the looping thoughts by using your brilliant brain to engage in noticing what your hands are doing, engage in noticing what your legs are doing, whatever it is. Just come into your body. And then take a second to listen to those intrusive thoughts, listen to the emotions that come, and feel it for just a second. You're already probably feeling it a lot. So just a second. And then tell yourself from a sense of presence inside your body, right? It's like from a different place inside you. Oh yeah, those are the thoughts we have when we have hobbies. That's right. So you're validating it, but you're not giving it a whole lot of weight. And the emotions that come of feeling guilty or feeling blah, whatever it is, pay attention where it is in your body and say, "Oh yeah, that's what it felt like when I was having that thought." Right? Like you're giving it validation and yes, absolutely, this is what it feels like when I have that thought. But that's it, right? And then come into an awareness of the hobby that you want to do. I love coloring, whatever it is, okay? And gosh, I really want to enjoy this. Okay. So tell your say the guilty feeling is in your stomach. Tell your stomach, what would it be to enjoy this hobby right now? Let's try it. And tell your mind, "Hey, I hear that thought. We're gonna try something new right now, okay?" Do you see what I'm saying? It's a gentle, easy way, simple way of talking yourself through it, and then go ahead and color, and when it comes up, whatever it is, go ahead and do the hobby, and then as it comes up again, 5 seconds, 30 seconds, do that whole thing again. Just keep repeating it and use it as practice to play around with creating something different. So there's an example of a way to, and all of that, right, is self love. Okay. Darlene is saying, "Oh, hey, Shoshana. Sometimes it's a feeling of content." Oh my gosh, it's such a feeling of content. Oh yeah, or joy, right? Um, and what's selfish about content? What's selfish about joy? What's selfish about feeling love or feeling excitement or elation? Nothing. What happens when you are full of self-love? Okay, what happens when you're full of narcissism? A person, not you. Okay, what happens when a person is full of narcissism? They start projecting. They need to protect the ego. They need to protect this version of self that they're presenting to the world. They need to protect it. When you're protecting something, you're on guard, you're guarded, you're attacking, narcissists are all these things, right? They are needing from others the validation. So they're pulling attention, their energy sucking, so that's what happens when a person is full of narcissism. What happens when a person is full of self-love? This is the clearest example I can give of why it's not selfish. If you are full of, let's name the words that might happen when you have self love: contentment, joy, relaxation, excitement, love, happiness, openness, creativity. When you're full of that, where does your energy go in the world? Oh, well, you hold some back for yourself because it feels good, right? But you share it with others. You bring happiness to other people. You spread joy to other people. You are aware of other people's energy when it is pulling and sucking you out of this state of self love towards toxicity. And you learn to set boundaries to keep that out and to keep it nowhere. It does can't even get in because there's no place for narcissism there. Does that make sense? So that's the number one example I can give of why it is not selfish. All right. Here's one of my intrusive thoughts, says Darlene. When I do something fun, you should be doing whatever, housework, instead of having fun. It doesn't matter if it's for the first fun I have had in days or weeks. So then ask yourself, where did that come from? Whose language is that? Was it ever yours? And if not, return to sender. That was never yours. Goodbye. Right? And that doesn't necessarily take it away, but it kind of gives a little humor to it and lightens it up a little. And then go back and repeat that exercise I gave because it's helpful to be with yourself while you're experiencing that and asking yourself to make the change. It's your ex's language. Well, then you say, "Oh, hey, ex, I hear you. You don't belong there. Evict. Return to sender, not mine." Right? And do the thing anyway. You sometimes the acts of self-love that we do require the discomfort of going through doing them a couple times until we get the idea that, oh, this is actually pretty good for me, not negative. All right. Chris is saying, like the lyrics, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." Yes, welcome the thoughts in. I usually make it funny, sarcastic, like, "Well, hello there. I've missed you. It's been over 5 minutes." Exactly. You welcome them in because they're already there. The more you fight the intrusive thoughts and get mad at them and tell them where to go and whatever, the more you're fueling it for a lot of people, for most people, really. By allowing them to be there and run in the background and doing something else anyway, then they're just annoying. And then it's like, "Yeah, okay. I heard you 5 minutes ago. Thank you. Thank you. No thanks. Not mine." Right? Instead of battling something that was never yours to begin with. All right. So what time is it? I'm going to have to go in just a minute here. It's time for group coaching in a minute. Um, so let's see. Anything else? Did I miss anything? No, I haven't. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to head out then, and I will try to be back later this week with some more live streams and some more videos. And yeah, thanks for coming in. Join me again, and I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to hit subscribe and thumbs up. Take care. Bye bye.